Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy McGarrow. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. I'm excited to explore the inner world of the Script Continuity Supervisor. We have Toni Crey on today, who was the script supervisor on shows like Zombieland, Ozark, and Tell Me Lies. She also has turned her talents to directing her film, Her Choice, which has won many film festival awards. Welcome to the show, Toni.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here.
Well, let's start off with a congratulations on your most recent film, Her Choice. That must be exciting.
It's a wonderful opportunity to share a great message with women. I feel that the time is right for us to explore our options between faith and sexuality and reproductive rights. It's not a one-stop shop. There is no one answer. So the point of the film is to examine faith and choice coexisting. So it was a great opportunity. It just happened to come at a time when there's a need for it out there. So I was able to dramatize something that I had been feeling for a long time.
God, that's wonderful. And I can't wait to ask more questions about that a little later. But I wanted to get into the Script Continuity Supervisor. It's such an exciting position. I wanted to ask you, what drew you to becoming a script supervisor?
I went to film school at NYU, and I had the most fabulous teacher. She was the first accredited script supervisor in the New York Union, and there are two different unions, and they are separate bodies of work. So you can't work in California, but California can work in New York. It's just the way it is. Very weird. So Roberta Hodes is her name. She's accredited with On the Waterfront, Baby Doll, and had a slew of wonderful films that she was script supervisor on, including King of Comedy, which is when I was in school with her, and The Tao of Steve. Those are all just some irreverent kind of things that she's done in her career. She was brilliant, beyond words, and instilled in us a sense of story, timing, and acute sense of ability to mise-en-scene, put things together, never to forget to isolate those close-ups as a moment. Anything dramatic, anything comedic, those have to be heightened. You can't just type it in the script and pretend that it's going to exist on film. If you have flowers that are magic, and I actually had to do this when someone explained, you have to see the flowers turning from herbs into the magic, or else you're never going to get the story point. So things like that were instilled in me in an early age. And I did what everybody did at the time was we crewed on each other's films. So you would experience every position. And I just enjoyed continuity because it worked with editing very well. And I love editing. And I actually became a union editor first and then went back to production with script supervising. I miss being on set. It's kind of a dual mentality, but they really do flow together well. It's the ability to take beats, story beats, and do this. You know, editors have the last say of the filmmaking process. Script supervisors are there to say, we need that close-up, we need that shot, we must make sure that the timing on the way she says this is the right inflection and tone, the way she said it in the master shot. So tiny little things like that were instilled upon me from an early age. And it was a great time to be in New York in the East Village. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of filmmaking going on. I had the best time with some of the kids that were ahead of me, and one of them was Ang Lee and Spike Lee, and his DP was Ernest Dickerson, and they were shooting this horrifically dramatic, intense scene in Red Hook, Brooklyn. It was all MOS, and this woman was psycho, and she was putting her baby in the oven. And
oh my God,
I was so freaked out, but they had the radio on, and every time Super Freak came on, we would literally stop shooting and start dancing. And I was like, okay, this is the best moment of my life. So despite all the crazy stories that you get into as a filmmaker, you know, low budget can lend themselves to some really fun experience. So you start off low budget, and that tends to work begets work. I was in Atlanta at the right place at the right time. I had my first opportunity at the town where my family had just moved to. We were the only Italians practically in the state of Georgia. And the only reason why was my older sister was there. My parents bought this house, 20 acres or something out in the middle of Covington, which is 40 minutes outside of Atlanta. And that's where they were shooting in the heat of the night. That was my first union job. I came home with $1,000 and my father went, "Yeah, baby, go." And that kind of started it off. So production literally just got going there. A lot of low budget stuff. They did all the Ernest movies there. They did Sleepaway Camp there. Driving Miss Daisy, and my favorite of all, My Cousin Vinny, was actually shot in Covington. It's one of my favorite films. I just adore it to pieces. So that's the square, the town square. So I came back to town in 2018. My mom was starting to get sick with cancer. I stayed for periods of time, would work, and then go back to Los Angeles. I really loved living out in the farm, so I worked on the originals back then, which was a great show. That was the same company that did Vampire Diaries, and now they do Legacies. So that's all the same team that works really well when you're in production because everybody knows each other, and they're building incredible sets. The last thing that I worked on was they had built a cemetery of New Orleans out of styrofoam. It was unbelievably artistic. So that was one of the last scenes we were filming, was in that cemetery. And, the sets were great and the people were great. So I stayed in TV, but then I got a job. I like film a lot better. So I would always try to look for film jobs. And Zombieland 2 second unit came up, which was very fun to work on. 12 cameras at one point when we were shooting the end scene where the zombies attack at the end. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they surround Woody and everybody's on top of this van and they have a monster truck that drops in. So it was quite extensive work. Stunts, fire, monster truck. I think we had cameras on aerials. So there was like 15 cameras, GoPros plus cameras attached to the truck, cameras attached to... So, and basically this is all like 2-second clips going on everywhere the way you would cut it. So basically it's only taking up like 10 seconds of film. So, you have to basically give it to the editors and just say best moments, series, So it was a different way of approaching what we do, which is kind of comprehensive. And script supervisors are not just responsible for the continuity of the scenes visually. They're also there to jump in and give actors lines. I personally always let the actors have their time. I can remember being on the last day on that set on the originals, and the actress was just tired as she missed a line, and one of the girls goes to me, "Oh, she missed a line." And I was like, right, well, it's 9 years. She's done this how many times? It's an hour to wrap on those 9 years. You think I'm going to go up there and tell her line is bad? So I let people slide. I give actors a lot of credit. I know that they can do it. You don't want to be on top of somebody. You want to guide somebody. You want to help somebody. Big fine line. Also, when it comes to giving lines, it's sort of the director's gig. So you can feed a line, but if they're telling the actor to be a certain way, then that's their choice. To me, that's something different. I wouldn't want to take that away. So a lot of times they'll ask me, "Do you want me to say the line?" I said, if you feel better about what you need to tell them, yes. A lot of times they would do things that I would think, should I say something? And it wasn't always appropriate. So you have to really balance what you're going to say and when.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, like, with directors and actors for that matter, more so actors, I think. Well, I guess it's twofold. Sometimes directors want the line said exactly, and then there are others where the actors are great at ad-libbing, which then can create a little bit more in the in the script supervising, like, okay, they didn't really say the line, but it works.
We have options in our digital note-taking system, which I was about to get into. There's two basically different systems that everybody is working with right now. And that's how the Scripty got started because it's
tell
called...
me about that.
It's called Scripty Systems by my friend Toni Pezone, and it's a great program, but it's SCRIPTIE is what all of us get called, and Scripty Systems is spelled differently. So somebody went and said, oh, Scripty, cute. And that's the lingo now is for all of us, which I keep going, continuity supervisor. It's a joke. We all laugh about it. You can't take it seriously. I just kind of goof on people and go, yeah, that was just somebody's idea of, now it's a very youthful, everybody's young and they all have like their names. And so everyone has a nickname on set. Oh yeah, Scripty, go give it to Scripty. It just works. Now, in the past, I can remember one of the first script supervisors I ever worked with. She said, she worked with Francis Ford Coppola, and he said, snap, 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 where's the script girl? And that's what we were called back then, script girls.
Right.
So it was mostly women, one of the few places we could excel. So it was, that's like a 1970s thing that has changed since then. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
The lexicon of the word is now something is probably going to be in Merriam-Webster. Scripty.
Right.
Known for script supervisors in the film industry.
It was interesting that you said that because I just assumed that was the term because that's what I heard all the time. And I didn't realize that in the industry, people don't really like to be called that. Do you feel like that's more the older generation versus the younger doesn't care?
I don't know how I get a sense that everybody gets a sense of it's kind of annoying because it's cutesy. It's cutesy instead of respectful.
Respectful of the role.
When they say the DP word comes and carries weight,
Right.
I have been treated all different ways, and I think that does have a lot to do with it. Some people really know how to work with a script supervisor, i.e. when they get a film, and there's a whole bunch of things that you need to track, like the one that I just did had a tablet that connected to a device outside to shut the lights off. And the protagonist was a bad girl and she was messing with it. So it affected the lights outside the house of the people that she wanted to mess with. And they would have to go on their tablets. Planted a video, GoPro inside a teddy bear as a point of view of what was going on inside the house for the bad girl to watch. And we were supposed to get all that video. It was said it was gotten. They didn't put me in charge of it, which I could have tracked very easily. A, B, C, D, E, we need all these things. I made sure that they said it was covered. Oh, yeah, we got it covered. They never covered one thing.
Oh,
so
no.
That's what happens on low budget. Normally, they have more respect for the script supervisor and they go, please help us track. And so you would be there, but low budget is just like everybody shooting all over the place. Somebody's got another camera and just shooting it over. Oh, yeah, we covered it.
Oh,
so that happens a lot. And a lot of inserts are missed and a lot of in-between things. Like shooting scenes, they have to connect some way. They have to have an intermediary point at which there's a transition, between scenes, between acts, between moments. You have to let a breath happen, and there needs to be footage of something. A lot of times those films are just they cut really hard to each other. And it doesn't feel cinematic. It feels rushed. It feels like TV sometimes.
Right.
And that's kind of the difference, I think. TV is very square and in your face, and cinema has that expansion, time, placement, moment, And then the streaming series are now following that more closely in a cinematic fashion. One of the best things that was shot visually was Queen's Gambit. How they articulated the vision of the ceiling and the whole movement of the chessboard in her head was spectacular. And it was artful, and it was deliberately structured to progress her chemistry going cuckoo in its brilliance. the mind of the OCD, where we go, and just loved all that. That's really where you can help somebody be better at getting the film to another level. But not everybody knows how to work with script supervisors. So a lot of directors are like, oh, did we get that? And you're like, sure, we got that. I started getting burned out by the last one because it was getting to the point where this one commercial flew to Atlanta specifically to shoot for a night exterior with the bar lights on. They spent hours setting it up. It's 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and they're finally ready to shoot. Should we shut off the lights and not take the shot? We like it better without the lights. Should we do that? I don't know. Should we? Should we not? And I thought, okay, this is it. If they ask me, and normally I'm like, yes, absolutely, get that shot. Absolutely. So, sometimes you see really, they must have spent a lot of money on that with Budweiser and Uber.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a fine line, like you were saying earlier, with when do you speak up and when do you not?
I always do, but I was in situations sometimes that were inappropriate and super, super guy intense heaviness on some zombie dead people in Georgia show. And things were happening there that were scary. I saw the stunt guys jumping off the building in the wreck going, I don't like the way they're falling. And I thought, should I say something that in any Avid or Final Cut program you can change the axis of the way somebody falls and you can make them fall perfectly or however you want? And he kept making them do it over and over. 2 weeks later, somebody died.
Oh, man.
Yeah. They missed the mat by inches. It was a tough show. So 5 cameras watching zombies come down hills and people cracking their head on rocks was more than I could handle. I went, okay, not for me.
Yeah, and what do you do in a situation like that? Do you talk to the producer? Do you let somebody know this is not good? Or is it something that people don't listen and you just either have to get the job done or leave?
I did.
What do you do on those kind of stuff?
I left.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't for me. There's so many things that are not going to be for you. And you have to learn to walk away. You will not change things. You have to pick and choose. I did tons of second unit. Sometimes when we would be parallel action in the scene with dialogue, and it was just a continuation of those scenes, you were really working with actors. But a lot of it was stunts, and especially in Georgia, you were stuck outside, usually in some desolate field or a lot with toxic waste or, cars or something all night long. And I went, I'm pretty good at this by now. I really don't need to be doing this. So I was really trying to aim for the dialogue-driven pieces, and I almost got hired on the Showtime that just aired with the American President's Wife about Michelle Obama, and the Michelle Pfeiffer was Betty Ford. And
that was great.
It was fantastic, and I was going to go to Warm Springs with them to shoot all the Georgia stuff, and I love history. So I only like to do things that I really like to work on now.
Right, exactly. So let's go to, what is the prep work you do before the shoot begins? What is the stuff that you need to prepare
important.
for?
Yeah, that's where you kind of have to really make sure that you have your act together. Whatever you get needs to be read several times on several different levels. You need to read it for the locations. You need to read it for the dialogue. You need to read it for the story beats. And then the moments that you're responsible for may not be, you may have to research it out. You may have to have somebody send you a visual. Somebody sends you a still to match. One of the last days on one of the shows, was I loved the Script Supervisor, but they were just crazy trying to get stuff done. She was supposed to send me a video. Never got to me. And they're like, well, where's the video? And I'm like, sorry, I can only do so much. So you have to be able to figure out when it's your responsibility. Normally, we take a lot of screen grabs. So you would pass those on to another script supervisor coming in to pick up where you left off. There's something, that you're matching. So it's really important that you have a clip or a still store. So half the job is when they say continuity, it's really making sure that you are prepared to cover whatever it is you're going in to shoot. So that when they ask you a question, does this look right? His eye line, is he looking the right way? Is he going to cross the right way? Will it match with the master scene? I've had varying degrees of this. I came in on a show. They're in the green room and they sneak it into their camera. And you can see on the monitor when you add another camera. So you're looking at monitors. You have two monitors. One says A camera, one says B camera. And I'm sitting there like, so at the end of the day, I get no notes. And I had trouble with the assistant camera woman who was arguing about how to write things down. And I just said, I'll just put it in my notes, which is normally how you deal with it. So I went around them to production and said, I saw this camera and here's what I saw. So you got to pay me for the second camera, even though you told me in the email 10 times it was only going to be one camera. And that was a union shoot. So not everything is run really well. You got to be on top of your game. You have to know when you're going to be able to say something. And if it's just a bad shoot, you're just going to walk away at the end of the day and not go back. That's easy enough for me,
Yeah. So the prep work for the shoot is you read the script and then you do you have to put it in your
Yes.
programs? And I think maybe we should ask you that. What is the toolkit for the Script Continuity Supervisor?
So the two digital So the two digital programs cost a lot of money. So that's an investment because you're learning how to do it. That's like $500. Then the program is like $1,000, and then you maintain your program because it's backed up every month, which is another couple $100. So it's a small fortune. And you have iPad, computer, something to hook up your monitor, the monitor from Video Assist to your computer, or it's wireless, and you have wireless programs. So you have to have all those tools as well as
headsets. Or do
I
you
like
get
a
that from
oneer?
audio?
See, I like a oneer, so I always stick with a oneer. I get headaches, so I don't always take the headsets from audio. I'll just put it in my own headset because I like to hear what's
is
just this on one side.
just one side. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
because
just to be clear.
Yeah, just because if somebody needs something on set or something's asking, at least I can have my second ear over here, thinking, okay, I'm completely one, but I still can be on set. So everybody works different. Normally, it's your stand, your chair, your computer, your hookup to the DIT, and your software program running in addition to anything that you might have, like an iPad to go through the script while you're making sure you're taking the notes. You had asked me about giving cues. How hard is it when they are talking out of dialogue, and how it is hard. And so sometimes you have to say, I didn't catch that, or if she picks up her arm and bends it while she's saying the line, she should be fine. Because everything's on action. Everything's on an action. So a lot of times I'll just say, have her head turning to the shot and it'll be okay.
But how are you doing that when you have to read and then you have to look to see what they're doing? How do you do both?
So generally speaking, I would say by the time you get to doing close-ups and stuff like that, you pretty much know the script. Half of it is the fact that you've been sitting there all day listening and sometimes having to speak the lines, which is really the fun part of the job. Yeah, it's like the most fun. You know, and that is really when it is fun and you're like goofing around on set and everybody's great. But that could be a challenging moment. I have, like, again, just take it again so you have an option. You know,
Right.
We're not running film. It's digital. It's not costing you anything. Just get another take. The worst thing is, honestly, is having the writers on set and having them coach the actors to perform in a way that they can't evoke. It was really bad on this guy is dying and he's in this like trailer in the middle of a garbage yard in Georgia. And the writer decides he's going to get in there and try to coax this kid into giving him a performance. Literally, it was 20 takes of the same thing, the same way every time. It was so painful. I mean, I was just like, seriously, never let the writer on the set. It always goes bad. Like,
Well, he's taking over. He's taking over the shoot. He's taking over the director's job, which the director probably should
and there was two of them. I don't know why they couldn't have pulled it off and just said move on because he's not giving us anything that we want.
Who is your direct supervisor on set?
It's always the assistant director. Always the assistant.
AD,
always the UPM and always the assistant director. Always the AD.
So how do you mark up the dialogue script, which would be different than when you're second unit doing action or montage notes? And also talk about the timing of a script.
When you cover dialogue, it's different. You actually line the script and say, the actor is speaking here in the master shots, A, B, C. Then we go to a two shot and it's only A and B speaking and C is off camera. Then we go to the next setup and C is on camera and those two are off. And then we go back and we isolate B for whatever reason. So your coverage is more about what you're shooting. And so I was taking it like this was an end montage. Nothing was more than 10 seconds. For timing wise, the shot went on for 30 seconds or whatever, but really in reality, it's only 10 seconds of screen time.
So do you have a stopwatch too that you're doing the timing on?
Yeah, the stopwatch is also embedded in the program.
Okay,
I do sometimes handheld when it comes, but it's embedded in the program.
So what exactly, so you take a script and then you import it into the program, I'm taking it, so that it will break it down to scenes and stuff.
Exactly.
And then you're filling out time, you're filling out who's speaking, and you're also with your binder, right? A binder of a script, and are you physically writing or now it's
not anymore? That's all inside the program.
That's great.
So what you just said was half of it is done for you.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I see that all the locations are accounted for, and I can say, oh, there's 20 exteriors, 5 of which are the school, 5 of which are the library, 5 of which are the house, 5 of which are the exterior of whatever, the lake. So I know when we go to shoot that, if I have to match anything from the lake to the house to the school, that's what I need to watch for. So I would put that in my breakdown track. Track her clothing, track her hat, track her purse with a gun in it.
Wow. And do you take pictures too? Like after, do you take pictures through your iPad?
Yeah. That's what I was telling you. We all take pictures and that's what we share.
Oh, that is so cool. And then it just goes right into the program.
It does.
By seat, probably. Oh my God, that's so wonderful. And then you said video too. Do you do that or you get that from somebody?
You're not supposed to. That's because that's DIT and it gets into a gray area. So,
and you get storyboards too? You're putting the storyboards in there if they could?
Only commercials. And on Zombieland too, I had storyboards.
That's great. That probably helps. And then you're tracking, you're also tracking props too. So it's like, is this in there?
Excuse me.
They grab it. You have to think about that don't
Stuff
you?
over your
Like,
shoulder, eyes, which way are they looking when they pick it up and go boom, or, whatever it is, say the line, pick it up, cross my hat over, pull it down, roll up a window, roll down a window. Those things, was the window up or down?
And how far?
How far?
Yeah. Oh my God. Is it stressful?
Yeah, it is. And I always go cut in the action. Cut in the action is going to save you every time.
Yeah.
It's going to cut when the moment you can cheat so many things. And I am a really good editor, so I know how to cheat really well.
And what do you edit now?
Yeah.
Are you editing? And then what do you work on?
I love DaVinci Resolve has free. Brilliant. I've learned so much. I color corrected my film. I colored all the dropout of the film that happened in 30 years so that there's it's perfect now. So there's film has dropout, celluloid dropout.
Yep.
So that's the flicks. I got rid of all that. It goes in and spot cleans it. And I learned how to do a mix, and I felt like a filmmaker again. It was a great moment.
What drew you to telling the story for your film or choice? And can you tell us a little about it?
I shot the film a long time ago, and I canned it because I got really close to making it, and I got shot down. Just enough to make me rethink everything. So it sort of haunted me for years, and the timing was never right. Editing on film is very laborious. It has changed in so many ways that are brilliant. You do not have to do any of the steps that you used to do before, i.e. syncing up a film, hiring an editor, or doing it yourself on a flatbed,
right?
Or transferring it to video, where you lose generations. So I waited till technology kind of got up, and I had it digitally, 16 millimeter digitally transferred. Looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I had home movies of my family and the 16 that I shot and film that I shot all edited together to make it look like one complete film. Color corrected, digitally enhanced, resized so that it's a step into the past. And that's why you said earlier when we were first talking about the film, you felt like you were looking at an old movie.
The 1940s.
Exactly.
I watched the trailer and it was like, oh my God, how did she do this? I mean, it looks like the 1940s. I mean, like it's shot in the 1940s.
Yeah. We went to great lengths to really preserve the style that they shot in, and also the darkness. I love the way they used light. I'm sort of addicted to film noir. So without it being in that direction, I allowed myself to take a step into pondering what is the sensibility of the time. We were coming out of war. It was home, and it was dark and warm, and things were tangible, and it was a different era. So I really took into advantage a feeling that I think comes out on screen. So I was really proud that part of it evokes a feeling of past tense. And that really has more to do with your production design, and my team was so fantastic. We were so creative, and we were able to pull off so much with so little. I had received grants. I had moved to Atlanta right after film school, and I received 5 grants, and it was just enough to make a movie. It was like $30,000. So we shot on film. I was given grants for the lighting and the sound package, and I had all my actors were all theater people, and they were just brilliant. My best friend from film school flew in from LA, and everybody's still in my life. All my friends are my actors, and I have been waiting for this moment to go back out now, in a time when women are really challenged with a story that became something else. It was about women's emancipation when men came back from war. Now it's more women's emancipation, sexuality, reproductive rights, questioning and challenging who we are as women back then against the church's doctrine, where we were being told not to practice even safe sex was sort of taboo. Right. So our grandparents grew up under this whole downplaying of sexuality, which kind of reared its ugly head, I think, in the 60s with sexual freedom. And it became this imbalance that we're seeing today. And it's going state by state as to where the mores of the country are lying. You know, reproductive rights are no longer available in the very Christian conservative states. And yet I know that there is a question of faith and choice in the heads of most of those young women growing up. It cannot be black and white. So this was the start of an idea I had about choosing each decade to highlight faith and choice as a through line in a family, to follow the family as they changed in their mores. By the time the 60s come, the family has evolved and there's people in same-sex relationships that are very taboo, women having pregnancies outside of marriage. The things that we were dealing with all along have sort of come into highlight now as we look back, we sort of take it all apart. How did we get here? Why are we at this point? Why are we challenging Roe versus Wade now after all this time? Who would have ever thought?
Yeah, I think your film was meant to be shown now.
Don't you think? Isn't it wild? That's what I keep thinking, that, you know, God has a plan and we just don't get it. I had another producer named Ben Barinholtz who was in charge of Circle Films. He discovered the Coen brothers and he loved it. And I think what happened was this woman affected me so much I didn't believe in myself anymore. And I began to question my own choices, and I kept rewriting the script not in the way I should have. And I had it, and then I rewrote it and messed it up. That is a big issue with filmmakers. I think we do that a lot. We do not honor our first choice, and we go when we mess it up. And you go back to your first choice and you go, wow, that was actually a really good instinct. Why did I not follow that?
Yeah, I was just going to say is also you were a lot younger. And I think there's something to age and wisdom.
Absolutely.
That we start to just trust our gut. Whereas when we're young, I think we tend to go with, oh, well, you probably know better than I know, or I'm not strong enough to speak up. But I think, you know, now you're like, screw you all. I'm going to do it my way kind of thing, you know.
There's never going to be an opportunity for me to say, you know, screw you. I'm going to have to work with this the rest of my life.
Right.
Let it sit on me. Let me think about it and ruminate. And at one point, it really was the worst failure that I had had creatively, because I had a really great career that I focused, and I made sure that I learned everything about filmmaking. I was an editor. I was a senior writer producer. I did promos. I did short form. I went back and I worked on crews and production. I wanted to know this business inside out. So going back and becoming passionate about something that I was kicked to the curb with, my mother was dying. Right before she passed, I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to redo this. This is my mission. She said, good for you. It was a really good story. She's in it. She's in it. I had my first acting role in it. We shot in my hometown in Covington. There's so much great things. And then I incorporated all this whole movie of my family, which I showed my family, and they're all in love with it. And it was just such a blessing because we all rekindled our connection again. You know, that's my aunt and my uncle that looks my aunt looks exactly like my actress. Wow. It's unbelievable. There's shots of her. She's taking off her sunglasses. She looks so sophisticated, exactly like my actress. So I intercut all this footage of her reminiscing about, there's a lot of voiceover in there that's cut to the home movies. And it's a trip into nostalgia. And so I'm going to do another cut of the trailer that shows that stuff because it's really beautiful. it became a through line of the film. One of the people that really influenced me, that I think the film Days of Heaven cinematically influenced me to let things play, open things up. So I've cut it two different ways. I've cut a short film version, which is going to film festivals, and that's the one that's been killing and doing really gangbusters at the film festivals, because it's coming off where you're leaving in a question. What will she do? She has a choice. What will it be? And it winds up, people go, wow, I've been thinking about this for days. What will she do? Which is really great.
Yes.
I recut it as a feature for sort of a family faith-based audience, and selling it that way is there's all this other footage. It's a happy ending. She winds up going through all this stuff and still challenges the faith and the choice, but realizes motherhood is above everything else. So it's more family faith ending, but I'm going to sell it. So I don't, I think that there's a huge market out there for faith-based stories. And it just wound up being that I had all this footage, and that's how it appears to people. So I'm taking advantage of it. I think that that's kind of the thing in life, is where you really got to just jump in, where I didn't know it was going to turn out that way. So I kind of figured I'm going to play both ends against the middle,
Yeah, I like it. And also, you had mentioned like failure, but I don't think anything's really ever a failure. It's always just a learning lesson to something bigger. Sometimes we just don't see it at the time. So I hope you don't look at what happened. I mean, it's a horrific thing that happened with her, and it's terrible that women sometimes don't support women. I mean,
many times, and
awful.
I think we're just too fearful of empowering ourselves, and it's easier to challenge somebody else than to challenge yourself.
Right.
So I was really active. I went out a lot. I did a lot of getting out there, networking in the beginning. I learned everything I needed to know. I took all the seminars. I took all the writing seminars. And writers are really cruel to each other unless you're in the right group. I had one group just rip something apart that I later went on to make, and it wound up being great. People just think they know. They don't always know. And so now with the advent of streaming, I'm selling those things.
Yeah.
And the short form is what's selling. So I'm learning how to get it out there on short form, which is kind of amazing. It never had a body of work to say, I can make money on this. So I'm just now learning how to tie in, and it's not easy, the YouTube watching versus how much advertising you can get money for. So that's kind of an interesting, people make all this money, and I was like, how do they do that? I mean, I think it's pretty fascinating, and I still haven't gotten there yet, but I just go, wow. I do have a project that's out there that was a real story. It was a reality thing. It has 9,000 hits.
That's great.
9,000. And I'm like, okay, how can I make money on this? So short form has become a new art form. YouTube.
Right. Well, and it's also interesting with your line of crew positions, where you go from editor to script supervisor to director to writer director, and how they all kind of come together to help each other out and fine tune your skills in different ways that you don't realize in the end. It's like, oh my God,
utterly,
utterly
and completely. I never was happy staying in one thing. I had to keep moving. Freelance worked for me. I wasn't a corporate person. I was at ABC for 2 years, and I hated it. I was at Warner Brothers for 5 years. I was on the show Extra. I loved it.
Oh, I love
because
that show.
there was so much going on. It was Entertainment News Magazine, and I was interviewing all these. I spent the night with Joni Mitchell, interviewing Joni Mitchell, like all these fabulous people, and it was the best 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
Then I went into trailers at Warner Brothers, where I learned a lot, and I was shooting promos, and so timing got into my head. Timing things, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute for a trailer. And then I missed being on set, and my mom was starting to get sick. So my mom, my nephew, and my best friend all got sick with cancer, stage 4.
Oh, no.
While I was there. So there's like 5 years of going back and forth, but it was a great opportunity to spend it with everybody. And Atlanta was really fabulous at the time to have all these great shows going on. Ozarks, what were some of the other ones that I did? Insatiable with Debbie Ryan. She's great, and she's just got a film at Sundance now. I just saw. There was just a lot of goofy, fun stuff that was done for a while, and so I had a blast. As you procure your investment in yourself, just realize that everything you do adds up to a total sense of knowingness. Try to focus, but don't let the other things in your heart stop you from exploring. Sometimes it'll make you better at a job by leaving and coming back. I became obsessed with editing. I got into reality. I was cutting the Kardashians and all these shows. I got burned out. I went back to script supervising. 7 years, 10 years on production. I'm done with that. It's time to go back and be a director. So let these chapters in your life make you evolve. It doesn't have to be one-stop shopping. You can be many things. Just focus on what's important in front of you first. So if your achievement is to be on set, let that be your focus for the first 10 years. Learn everything you need to learn about being, if you want to be a producer, you got to go in the office. Unfortunately, it's not so much being an AD, it's being a UPM. Knowing how to hire, knowing all the rules, knowing all the legal stuff, hearing when problems happen, how to adapt immediately to a changing situation. If there's weather, safety on sets. We didn't talk about that. That's a big deal. I have walked off sets when it has not been safe.
Well, and it's also taking care of yourself and making the right decisions for you.
Yeah, you walk away. Walk away, walk away, walk away. Just like you two said. You got to walk away. You got to know when to stand up for yourself, when to leave.
Right, yes.
That is the most empowering moment of your life.
Yeah.
Honestly, knowing when to get out. And yes. I will say that your resume is only as good as you can make it as good as you want it to be. You can keep jumping. You don't have to stay at these situations forever to make you be marketable. Right. The market is a mysterious place where things are changing all the time, and you can be anything you want. Do not make that mistake to think that it will not catch up with you if you lie, but you can certainly transform all these different technical aspects into, I am a creative producer. There's line producers, and then there's creative producers. I'm more of a creative producer. I do know how to make it work. I was at TBS for years. I know how to hire crews and blah, blah, and all that stuff. It is not a creative job. Being a director, being an editor, you have an opportunity. You have to kind of go where as a woman, your field of expertise will lend you into having a mark. And then you got to learn how to make it.
Right. Well, and I also think networking is key. So like you said, if you're working on set, you're working in different positions, you're getting to know people who will then get you jobs. Because, I can't tell you how many jobs I've gotten from this podcast, from working on set. So it's just making connections and relationships.
Right.
So, and then being
Right.
the best at what you do. I mean, you got to
Absolutely.
hone your skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it takes time, it takes acumen and hard work, and there's no getting around it.
Yeah, and it's also, though, on that, you know, when you work with great people, then you get aligned to those great opportunities and stuff where you can have
And they
really
bring you
great
along.
Yeah, and then it's a good experience, and you're
Exactly.
happy, and everything's running smoothly. I like that. I've been on terrible sets, so I totally get where it's like I'll never work for them again. And then I've worked on wonderful sets where I'm like, oh my God, anytime you do a film, I want to be a part of it. You know?
Yeah. It's
So.
a big difference. It's a big ship. It makes it all the difference when you put your head down on the pillow at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't say, what am I doing versus, yeah, I can go to sleep now.
Right. Yeah, and we're all doing what we love.
Yeah.
Let's have
That's great.
fun. Let's not
Yeah,
make
let's have
this
fun. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
a terrible
It
experience.
is the best job in the world. It can be the
Yeah.
best job in the world. You know,
Yeah.
on any given day, you get more opportunities. I cannot tell you all the geniuses that I work with. You know, being young enough to get into it, Sidney Poitier, Burt Lancaster, in the room with Martin Scorsese, Thelma Schoonmaker. Her husband was Michael Powell, the director of The Red Shoes. The entire cast of so many features that shot Atlanta for LA. Here, you know, and they're just meeting people in the business that were enlightened and can lead a path in a way that you are ready to take on and be inspired by. Makes all the difference
by
in the
greatness.
world.
Yeah. And when you get to work with that talent, it's just like mind-blowing and
It makes all
also
the difference.
inspiring, like you just said. Inspiring to go, wow, this is what life could really be like.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Or
As
is
opposed to-
like.
Yeah. And it can be tough. It can be
Yeah.
miserable. It's just
Yeah.
part of the process. I honor
Yes, it is.
all the process.
Right.
got
And
me
you learn
here.
stuff from it too. I mean, I even on the bad sets, I met some great people.
Always.
So
Because
it's
you
always
you
who could you
hunkered
get?
down together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I had some funny pictures with me on the set of Zombieland with the stuffed zombies at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was taking pictures of myself because it was so cold and there was like nothing for me to do. And I was so cold. I was like lying down with zombie going, this is what I do when I'm really cold. So there's some funny pictures.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. It kind of puts life into perspective when you do this. You know, certainly you look at the highs and the lows of your life.
Yeah.
And it's an amalgamation of both, you know. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram @TamiMagiro. Until we meet again, what's your story?